Greetings, everyone. So, our today's topic for the SSC and other competitive examination is first in world and India. And basically, this is a part of static GK. It has no basic concepts, just memorizing things. So, first in world and India, important part of static GK and SSC as well as other competitive examinations. Moving forward, in our first slide, we're gonna first study about first in world. Then we are going to move forward about first in India. So the first person to reach Mount Everest is Sherpa Tenzing and Edmund Hillary. So two persons were there to reach first in on the Mount Everest. That is Sherpa Tenzing and Edmund Hillary. Then the first person to reach North Pole is Robert Peary. So North Pole on the northern hemisphere of Earth was reached by Robert Peary. The first person to reach South Pole was Amundsen. Amundsen reached the South Pole of Earth for the first time in world. The first religion of the world is Hinduism. Hinduism, our India uh, religion is Hinduism is the one of the first religion of the world, and the first country of the print book is China. The first country to print book, I'm sorry, the first country to print book is China. मतलब प्रिंटिंग का जो इन्वेंशन हुआ था वो चाइना से ही हुआ. The first country to commence competitive examination is China in civil services. So first country to start competitive examination was China. Basically जो भी competitive examination जो first of all start हुई थी पूरे world में, that was China, and in China the first examination was civil services. The first president of USA was George Washington. George Washington was the first president of USA. तो जॉर्ज वाशिंगटन जो फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट है उनके ऊपर ही वो जो स्टेट है मेजर कैपिटल है यूएस की, दैट इज वाशिंगटन डीसी, इज नेम्ड आफ्टर हिम. देन इन आवर नेक्स्ट स्लाइड वी आर गोना मूव फॉरवर्ड. द फर्स्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ ब्रिटेन. So the first prime minister of Britain is Robert Walpole. The first prime minister of Britain was Robert Walpole. The first Governor General of United Nations was Tregvelly. So the United Nations when started, its Governor General for the first time was Tregvelly. And where was Tregvelly altered from? So he altered from Norway. Tregvelly नॉर्वे का था और वो पहला गवर्नर जनरल है यूनाइटेड नेशंस का. प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो है ब्रिटेन का वो है रॉबर्ट वॉलपोल. फर्स्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर ब्रिटेन का था, इट वाज रॉबर्ट वॉलपोल. देन which was the first country to win football world cup. फुटबॉल वर्ल्ड कप वो पहली कंट्री जीतने वाली जो थी वो थी उरुग्वे. उरुग्वे won the first country to of football world cup. Then the first country to prepare a constitution was USA. USA prepared the first constitution in a written form for the first time. The first governor general of Pakistan was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. So basically first governor general of independent Pakistan, or independent Pakistan, so basically हम नहीं कह सकते, Pakistan was made after India only. So first governor general of major Pakistan is Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The first country to host NAM summit is Belgrade, and Belgrade is of Yugoslavia. So the first country to host NAM summit was Belgrade, that is of Yugoslavia. The first European to attack India was Alexander the Great. So जो फर्स्ट यूरोपियन इन्वेशन जो हुआ था, जो फर्स्ट यूरोपियन था जिसने इंडिया को अटैक किया था, he was Alexander the Great. Then एक बार फिर से हम रिवाइज करते हैं. माउंट एवरेस्ट पे कौन रीच हुआ था सबसे पहले? शेरपा तेंजिंग एंड एडमंड हिलेरी. एडमंड हिलेरी एंड शेरपा तेंजिंग रीच्ड माउंट एवरेस्ट फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम. First person to reach North Pole was Robert Peary. First person to reach South Pole was Amundsen. First religion of the world was Hinduism. First country to print book was China. First country to commence competitive examination was China itself in civil services. First president of USA was George Washington. Then First Prime Minister of Britain was Robert Walpole. First Governor General of United Nations was Trygve, and he halted from Norway. First country to win Football World Cup was Uruguay. First country to prepare a constitution in a written form was USA. First Governor General of Pakistan was Muhammad Ali Jinnah. First country to host NAM summit was Belgrade, Yugoslavia. Then first European to attack India was Alexander the Great. Next is the first European to reach China. So first European who reached China was Marco Polo. Marco Polo reached China for the first time. The first person to fly aeroplane, तो या तो आप जानते होंगे, it is Wright brothers. Wright brothers flown the aeroplane for the first time. The first person to sail around the world was Magellan. Magellan sailed around the world for the first time. The first country to send men to the USA, send men to the moon was USA. First country to send men to the moon was USA. Then first country to launch artificial satellites in the space. First country to launch artificial satellite in the space was Russia. Russia launched the artificial satellite in the space for the first time. Whereas USA sent the men to the moon for the first time. The first country to host modern Olympics was Greece. Greece hosted the modern Olympics for the first time. The first city on which atom bomb was dropped was eventually one and only Hiroshima, Japan. On Japan, atom bomb was dropped. So the first person to land on the moon was Neil Armstrong, and he was followed by Edwin Aldrin. So Neil Armstrong put the first foot on the moon, and second person after Neil Armstrong was Edwin E. Aldrin. So again, we're going to revise it. The first European to reach China was Marco Polo. The first person to fly aeroplane was Wright brothers. The first person to sail around the world was Magellan. The first country to send men to the moon was USA. The first country to launch artificial satellite in the space was Russia. The first country to host the modern Olympics was Greece. The first city on which atom bomb was dropped was Hiroshima. And the first person to land on the moon was Neil Armstrong. And second person was Edwin E. Aldrin. Next slide is the first shuttle to go in space. So it was Columbia Shuttle. Columbia Shuttle went to space for the first time. The first spacecraft to reach on Mars was Viking 1. The first spacecraft to reach on Mars was Viking 1. Then the first woman Prime Minister of England. The first woman Prime Minister of England was Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher was the first woman Prime Minister of England. The first Muslim Prime Minister of a country was Benazir Bhutto, and she was of Pakistan. So first Muslim Prime Minister of any country in the world was Benazir Bhutto, and she was of Pakistan. The first woman Prime Minister of a country is you can say Muslim country की जो first Prime Minister woman Prime Minister थी वो थी Benazir Bhutto, and first woman Prime Minister of any country was Mrs. S. Bandamaike, that is she was of Sri Lanka. On Mrs. S. Bandamaike was the first woman Prime Minister of a country. Then the first woman to climb Mount Everest, Mrs. Junko Tabi from Japan. Now, Mrs. Junko Tabi was the first woman to climb Mount Everest from Japan. The first woman cosmonaut of the world was Valentina Tereshkova. First woman cosmonaut of the cosmonaut is basically an astronaut of the world was Valentina Tereshkova, and she was from Russia. The first woman president of the UN General Assembly was Vijayalakshmi Pandit. Vijayalakshmi Pandit of India. Okay, so we're going to revise this slide again. The first shuttle to go in space, Columbia Shuttle went to space for the first time. First spacecraft to reach on Mars was Viking 1. Viking 1 reached Mars for the first time. First woman Prime Minister of England was Margaret Thatcher. First Muslim Prime Minister of a Muslim country was Benazir Bhutto, that is she was of Pakistan. First woman Prime Minister of a country was Mrs. S. Bandamaike, that is she was from Sri Lanka. First woman to climb Mount Everest was Mrs. Junko Tabai, and she was from Japan. First woman cosmonaut of the world was Valentina Tereshkova from Russia. First woman president of the UN General Assembly was Vijayalakshmi Pandey. The first man to fly into space was Yuri Gagarin. Yuri Gagarin was the first man to fly into space and he was from Russia. The first batsman to score 3 Test centuries in 3 consecutive debuts. So ये यहाँ पे गलत लिखा हुआ है. 3 successive debuts जो है ये यहाँ पे आएगा. After this, then comes the answer. So the first batsman to score 3 Test century in 3 successive tests on debut was Mohammad Azharuddin of our India. So Mohammad Azharuddin basically scored 3 Test centuries consecutively in his 3 successive tests on debut. मतलब उसके debut के 3 टेस्ट में उसने 3 consecutively century बनाई थी मोहम्मद अजहरुद्दीन ने. Then the first man to have climbed Mount Everest twice was Nawang Gombu. Nawang Gombu climbed the Mount Everest 2 times, and he was the first to climb 2 times Mount Everest for the 2 times. The first U.S. president. The first US president to resign presidency was Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon resigned the presidency of US for the first time. Again, we're going to revise it. The first man to fly into space. First man to fly into space is different. First man to fly into the step to put step on the moon is different. He was Neil Armstrong, and after that Edwin Aldrin. The first man to fly into space was Yuri Gagarin, and he was from Russia. The first batsman to score 3 Test centuries in 3 successive tests on debut was Mohammad Azharuddin. The first man to have climbed Mount Everest twice was Nawang Gombu. Nawang Gombu climbed Mount Everest 2 times. And the first US president to resign presidency was Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon resigned the presidency 2 times. So now our next topic is फर्स्ट इन इंडिया. सो इससे पहले हमने फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड बात करी थी, अब हम फर्स्ट इन इंडिया में सबसे पहले मेल की बात करेंगे. सो द फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडियन रिपब्लिक. इंडियन रिपब्लिक का फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट कौन था? डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद वाज द फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडियन रिपब्लिक. फर्स्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ फ्री इंडिया वाज पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू. फर्स्ट इंडियन टू विन नोबेल प्राइज. नोबेल प्राइज फर्स्ट इंडियन कौन था? रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर won the Nobel Prize, and he was the first Indian to do that. The first president of Indian National Congress was W.C. Banerjee. W.C. Banerjee was the first Indian president of Indian National Congress. The first Muslim president of Indian National Congress was Badruddin Tayyabji. Badruddin Tayyabji was the first Muslim president of Indian National Congress. The first Muslim president of independent India was Zakir Hussain. Dr. Zakir Hussain was the first Muslim president of India. So again, first president of Indian Republic was Dr. Ranjit Prasad. First prime minister of India was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. First Indian to win Nobel Prize was Rabindranath Tagore. And first president of Indian National Congress was W.C. Banerjee. First Muslim president of Indian National Congress was Badruddin Tayyabji. The first Muslim president of India was Dr. Zakir Hussain. Okay. The next is the first British Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. Lord William Bentinck was the first British Governor General of India. First British Governor General of India. You have to not get confused between Governor General of Bengal or Governor of Bengal and Governor General of India. Governor of Bengal अलग है Robert Clive. Governor General of Bengal Governor of Bengal Robert Clive अलग है. Governor General of Bengal अलग है. And he was Warren Hastings. And Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. ओके तो आपको ये तीन के बीच में कंफ्यूज नहीं होना है. सो द फर्स्ट ब्रिटिश गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया पूछा गया है तो वो है लॉर्ड विलियम बेंटिक. द फर्स्ट ब्रिटिश वॉइसरॉय जो है ये भी अलग है. गवर्नर जनरल का नाम जो है गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया से चेंज करके वॉइसरॉय ऑफ इंडिया कर दिया था. सो बेसिकली फर्स्ट ब्रिटिश वॉइसरॉय ऑफ इंडिया वाज लॉर्ड कैनिंग. लॉर्ड कैनिंग वाज फर्स्ट वॉइसरॉय ऑफ इंडिया. So the first Governor General of Free India, the first and last Governor General of Free India was Lord Mountbatten. Lord Mountbatten was the first Governor General of Free India. The first and the last Indian to be Governor General of Free India was C. Rajagopalachari. So the first and the last Indian to be Governor General of Free India was C. Rajagopalachari. Last Indian to be Governor General. Okay. फर्स्ट एंड द लास्ट मतलब ये एकमात्र गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया थे और एक ही रहेंगे. ये फर्स्ट भी थे और ये लास्ट भी थे जो गवर्नर जनरल बने थे इंडिया के. एंड ही वाज एन इंडियन दैट इज सी राजगोपालाचारी. एंड द फर्स्ट गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ फ्री इंडिया वाज लॉर्ड माउंटबेटन एंड ही वाज ब्रिटिश. The first man who introduced printing press in India was James Hickey. So James Hickey introduced printing press in India for the first time. तो हम इसे फिर से रिवाइज करते हैं स्लाइड्स को. The first British Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. First British Viceroy of India was Lord Canning. First Governor General of Free India was Lord Mountbatten. First and the last Indian to be Governor General of Free India was C. Rajagopalachari. He was the first and the last Indian to be Governor General of Free India. The first man to introduce printing press in India was James Hickey. James Hickey introduced first printing press in India for the first time. Then the first Indian to join the ICS. ICS is basically Imperial Civil Services. UPSC Union Public Civil Services जो थी उसका basically जो British period में time था नाम था उसका था ICS. And ICS means Imperial Civil Services, not Indian Civil Services. It is Imperial Civil Services. तो Imperial Civil Services को Indian जो first जिसने join करा था वो था Satyendra Tagore. Satyendra Tagore joined the Imperial Civil Services for the first time. And इसकी एग्जाम जो थी वो बेसिकली ब्रिटेन में जाके होती थी और इसे जाके देके अगर आप सिलेक्ट होते थे तो फर्स्ट जब ये इंडियन के लिए चालू हुई थी तो उसमें से first person was Satyendra Tagore. India's first man in space was Rakesh Sharma. Rakesh Sharma was India's first man on who went to space. First Indian commander-in-chief of India was General Cariappa. General Cariappa was the first Indian commander-in-chief of India. Commander-in-chief of India is post related to army. So first Indian commander-in-chief of Indian Army or India was General Cariappa. The first chief of army staff. The first chief of army staff was General Maharaj Rajendra Singh Ji. Maharaj Rajendra Singh Ji was the first chief of army staff of India. So next, the first Indian member of the Viceroy's Executive Council was S.P. Sinha. S.P. Sinha was the Viceroy of Executive Council. जब वाइसराय की जब पोस्ट बनी थी तो वाइसराय को एक एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल दी गई थी एंड बेसिकली एक लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल दी गई थी. लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल वो खुद हैंडल करता था और इट वाज कनेक्टेड टू ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट. बट जो एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल थी उसमें वन ऑफ द इंडियन मेंबर्स वाज और इंडियन मेंबर्स वाज to be selected or was to be elected in order to run government in the British times. So जो फर्स्ट इंडियन मेंबर था जो वाइसरॉय के एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल में आया था वॉज एसपी सिन्हा. एसपी सिन्हा जो थे फर्स्ट इंडियन जो थे वो इलेक्ट हुए थे और किसके लिए वाइसरॉय के एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल में एक मेंबर के लिए. द फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया हु डाइड व्हाइल इन ऑफिस. तो जो पहला प्रेसिडेंट है जो व्हाइल इन मतलब ऑफिस में थे उनके मतलब उनका रेजिग्नेशन नहीं हुआ था. बेसिकली उनका टेन्योर चल रहा था 5 साल का. जो 5 साल के टेन्योर के टाइम पे जो जिनकी मौत हो गई वो थे डॉक्टर जाकिर हुसैन. डॉक्टर जाकिर हुसैन डाइड फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम in his tenure itself, and he was the first president to do that. And he is also first Muslim president of independent India. He is also Muslim president of independent India, first Muslim president. ये हमने previous slide में पढ़ा था अभी. Okay, अब रिवाइज करते हैं स्लाइड को एक और बार. The first Indian to join ICS. ICS is Imperial Civil Services, and he was Satyendranath Tagore. The first man in space was Rakesh Sharma. India's first man. Sorry, the first Indian Commander-in-Chief of India was General Kadiyappa. The first Chief of Army Staff was General Maharaj Singh Ji. Maharaj Rajendra Singh Ji. Maharaj Rajendra Singh Ji. Then the first Indian member of Viceroy's Executive Council was S.P. Sinha. And the first president of India who died while in office, as well as the first Muslim president of India, independent India, was Dr. Zakir Hussain. Next slide. The first prime minister who died who did not face the parliament. So the first prime minister who did not face the parliament was Charan Singh. चरण सिंह जो थे वो उन्होंने पार्लियामेंट को संबोधित नहीं किया था उनके टेन्योर के टाइम पे. सो द फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट हु डिड नॉट फेस द पार्लियामेंट वाज चरण सिंह. द फर्स्ट फील्ड मार्शल ऑफ इंडिया वाज SHF Manekshaw. SHF Manekshaw was the first field marshal of India. Then first Indian to get Nobel Prize in physics. तो फिजिक्स में नोबेल प्राइज सबसे पहले किसको मिला था? सीवी रमन. सीवी रमन गॉट द फर्स्ट was the first Indian to get Nobel Prize in physics. The first Indian to receive Bharat Ratna award was Dr. Radhakrishnan. Dr. Radhakrishnan got the first Bharat Ratna award, and he was the first Indian to get Bharat Ratna award. That was Dr. Radhakrishnan. The first Indian to cross English Channel was Mihir Sen. Mihir Sen crossed the English Channel for the first time, and he was the first Indian to cross the English Channel for the first time. The first person to receive Jnanpith Award. Jnanpith Award is basically a literary award. The first person to receive Jnanpith Award was Sri Shankar Kurup. Sri Shankar Kurup received the Jnanpith Award. So again, we're going to revise it. The first Prime Minister of India who did not face the Parliament was Charan Singh. First Field Marshal of India was SHF Manekshaw. First Indian to get Nobel Prize in Physics. First Indian to get Nobel Prize was Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore को Nobel Prize मिला था. And Nobel Prize in Physics was given to C.V. Raman. So confused मत होना इसमें. The first Indian to receive Bharat Ratna Award. Bharat Ratna Award is the topmost civilian award given to a person, and it was first given to Dr. Radhakrishnan. First Indian to cross English Channel was Mihir Sen, and the first person to receive Jnanpith Award was Sri Shankar Kurup. Then the first speaker of the Lok Sabha was Ganesh Vasudev Mavalankar. जीवी मावलंकर कहते हैं हमें. जीवी मावलंकर उनका जो पूरा नाम है that is गणेश वासुदेव मावलंकर. he was the first speaker of the लोक सभा. जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का प्रिपरेशन का टाइम चल रहा था उसी टाइम पे गणेश जीवी मावलंकर was the speaker of लोक सभा. और उसके बाद भी जीवी मावलंकर और गणेश वासुदेव मावलंकर was the first speaker of the लोक सभा. The first vice president of India was Dr. Radhakrishnan. Dr. Radhakrishnan was also the first awardee of भारत रत्न अवार्ड. मैं सबसे पहले भारत रत्न अवार्ड भी उन्हें सबसे पहले मिला था और वही वाइस प्रेसिडेंट भी थे इंडिया के पहले. द फर्स्ट एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर जो थे वो अबुल कलाम आजाद थे. अबुल कलाम आजाद थे द फर्स्ट एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर. पहले होम मिनिस्टर जो थे, फर्स्ट होम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया वो सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल। फर्स्ट इंडियन एयर चीफ मार्शल, जो इंडियन एयर चीफ मार्शल थे, चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ अलग थे, और एयर चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ थे डॉक्टर राजेंद्र, डॉक्टर जनरल महाराज राजेंद्र सिंह जी। और जो एयर चीफ मार्शल जो फर्स्ट थे, ही वॉज एस मुखर्जी। एस मुखर्जी थे एयर चीफ मार्शल थे। फर्स्ट इंडियन नेवल चीफ फर्स्ट कौन थे? वाइस एडमिरल आर डी कटारी। आर डी कटरी जो थे वो फर्स्ट नेवल चीफ, इंडियन नेवल चीफ के चीफ थे। देन द फर्स्ट जज ऑफ इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस वाज डॉक्टर नागेंद्र सिंह। फर्स्ट जज ऑफ इंडिया ऑफ इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस, एक इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस बना हुआ है पूरे वर्ल्ड में, जो कि रिनाउंड फॉर गिविंग जस्टिस इन द वर्ल्ड इश्यूज। सो इसके लिए जो फर्स्ट इंडियन जज जो इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस का जज बना था वो था डॉक्टर नागेंद्र सिंह। डॉक्टर नागेंद्र सिंह वाज द फर्स्ट जज ऑफ इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस, नॉट इंडियन कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस। ओके, देन we're gonna move forward to रिवाइज कर लिया नहीं। The first speaker of Lok Sabha was Ganesh Vasudev Mavlankar GV Mavlankar. First vice president of India was Dr. Radhakrishna. He was also the awardee of Bharat Ratna Award. First education minister was Abul Kalam Azad. First home minister of India was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. First Indian air chief marshal was S. Mukherjee. First Indian naval chief was Vice Admiral R. D. Khatri. And first judge of International Court of Justice was Dr. Nagendra Singh Ji. Okay. Then the first person to receive Paramveer Chakra was Major Somnath Sharma. Major Somnath Sharma जो है, he received Paramveer Chakra for the first time. He was the first person to receive Paramveer Chakra. The first person to reach Mount Everest without oxygen. So the first person to receive to reach Mount Everest without oxygen was Sherpa Anga Dorji. Sherpa Anga Dorji reached Mount Everest for the first time without oxygen, taking any artificial oxygen with him. The first chief election commissioner was Sukumar Sen. Sukumar Sen was the first chief election commissioner. The first person to receive Magsaysay Award. Magsaysay Award was given to the first Indian who was Acharya Vinoba Bhave. Acharya Vinoba Bhave got the first Magsaysay Award. The first person of Indian origin to receive Nobel Prize in Medicine. Nobel Prize in Medicine was given to Hargobind Khurana, and इसको clearly look forward करिए. It is of Indian origin, not an Indian. He was of Indian origin, so he can be a citizen of any country, but as he is Indian of Indian origin, so वो कौन था, पहला कौन था? हरगोविंद खुराना. Okay, sir. First person of Indian origin to receive Nobel Prize in Medicine was Hargobind Khurana. The first Chinese traveler to visit India was Fahin. Fahin visited India for the first time, and he was the first Chinese traveler to reach India. The first person to receive Stalin Prize. Stalin Prize का first receive किसने किया था? सैफुद्दीन किचलू. सैफुद्दीन किचलू received the Stalin Prize for the first time. Okay. एक बार फिर से रिवाइज करते हैं. First person to receive Paramveer Chakra was Major Somnath Sharma. Major Somnath Sharma ने पहला पर्सन था जिसने परमवीर चक्र प्राप्त किया. First person to reach Mount Everest without oxygen was Sherpa Anga Dorji. ये आपको ध्यान रखना है. बाकी जो थे विद ऑक्सीजन गए थे. The first chief election commissioner was Sukumar Sen. Sukumar Sen was the first chief election commissioner. First person to receive Magsaysay Award was Acharya Vinoba Bhave. Acharya Vinoba Bhave got the Magsaysay Award for the first time in India. The first person of Indian origin to receive Nobel Prize in Medicine was Hargobind Khurana. He was of Indian origin. The first Chinese traveler to visit India was Fahin. And the first person to receive Stalin Prize was Saifuddin Kichlu. Next. The first person to resign from the central cabinet. So the first person to resign from the central cabinet of India, cabinet ministry से resign करने वाला जो पहला person था वो था श्यामा प्रसाद मुखर्जी. श्याम प्रसाद मुखर्जी resigned for the first time from the central cabinet of ministry. The first the first foreigner to receive Bharat Ratna. भारत रत्न अवार्ड को जीतने वाले फर्स्ट फॉरेनर कौन थे? खान अब्दुल गफ्फार खान. खान अब्दुल गफ्फार खान was the first foreigner to receive Bharat Ratna. Okay. Then the first person to receive Nobel Prize in Economics. First person to receive Nobel Prize in Economics, and ये recently अभी हुआ है. The first person to receive Nobel Prize in Economics was of Indian origin was अमर्त्य सेन. अमर्त्य सेन को आप जानते होंगे, बहुत फेमस है. And ये recently अभी हुआ है. The first person to receive Nobel Prize in Economics of Indian origin was अमर्त्य सेन. The first Chief Justice of Supreme Court was Justice Hiralal J. Kania. Chief Justice of Supreme Court of India, not ICJ. ICJ in the sense International Court of Justice के नहीं. Chief Justice of Supreme Court जो पहले थे वो थे हीरालाल जे कानिया. ठीक है. फिर हम आते हैं नेक्स्ट इन फर्स्ट इन इंडिया फीमेल. Now in first in India, so now the first lady to become Miss World in India. Okay, the first lady to become Miss World of which came from India was Rita Faria. Rita Faria became Miss World for the first time from India. The first woman judge in Supreme Court was Mrs. Meera Sahib Fatima Bibi. Meera Sahib Fatima Bibi was the first woman judge in Supreme Court. The first woman ambassador was Miss C.B. Muthamma. Miss C.B. Muthamma was the first woman ambassador. Okay, first woman ambassador was Miss C.B. Muthamma. The first woman governor of a state in free India was Mrs. Sarojini Naidu. Mrs. Sarojini Naidu was one of the you can say freedom fighters in the freedom struggle of India, and he was the first woman governor of a state after India became free. He was given the governor. He was given the post of governor of a free India, of a state of a free India. Again, we're going to revise this. The first lady to become Miss World from India was Rita Faria. First woman judge in Supreme Court was Mrs. Meera Sahib Fatima Bibi. First woman ambassador was Miss C.B. Muthamma. And first woman governor of state in free India was Mrs. Sarojini Naidu. Then the first woman prime minister was Bache. Basically ये जो है ये आगे पीछे हो गया है. ओके तो ये थोड़ा टेक्निकल मिस्टेक हो गया. आई एम सॉरी. The first woman prime minister was Santosh Yadav, and the first woman to climb Mount Everest twice was Bachendri Pal. तो वो ऊपर नीचे हो गया है, तो उसके लिए मैं माफी चाहता हूँ, वो थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन हो गया होगा. The first woman prime minister was Santosh Yadav. Okay, Santosh Yadav, and first woman to climb Mount Everest twice was Bachendri Pal. Okay, and she was from India. ओके ये सही है. फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर. ओके तो कंफ्यूजन ये हो Am I audible? Okay, so there's been a mistake. तो फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर वॉज इंदिरा गांधी. इंदिरा गांधी जो थी वो फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर थी. फर्स्ट वुमेन टू क्लाइम माउंट एवरेस्ट जो थी वो थी बछेंद्री पाल. ओके, फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर वॉज बछेंद्री पाल एंड फर्स्ट वुमेन टू क्लाइम माउंट एवरेस्ट वॉज बछेंद्री पाल. सॉरी, मैं थोड़ा अभी आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स हूँ क्योंकि तो वीडियो का भी इशू हो गया अभी बीच में. हाँ, फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो थी वो इंदिरा गांधी थी. फर्स्ट वुमेन टू क्लाइम माउंट एवरेस्ट वॉज बछेंद्री पाल. ओके, एंड ये वाला जो पॉइंट है वो सही है. द फर्स्ट वुमेन टू क्लाइम माउंट एवरेस्ट ट्वाइस वॉज संतोष यादव. संतोष यादव basically climbed Mount Everest 2 times and she was the first woman to do that from India. फर्स्ट वुमेन जिसने माउंट एवरेस्ट क्लाइम किया, ओके, शी वॉज बछेंद्री पाल. एंड फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो थी वो थी ऑब्वियसली यार इंदिरा गांधी. ओके, ये बहुत बेसिक सा होता है कि मैं संतोष यादव को प्राइम मिनिस्टर बोल रहा था, बट दैट इज अ मिस्टेक. संतोष यादव तो थे ही नहीं, इंदिरा गांधी जो थी फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर है और मैं कुछ भी बोल रहा हूँ. ठीक है, माय मिस्टेक, आई एम सॉरी. फर्स्ट वुमेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर वॉज इंदिरा गांधी. फर्स्ट वुमेन टू क्लाइम माउंट एवरेस्ट वॉज Bachendri Pal. First woman to climb Mount Everest twice was Santosh Yadav. The first woman president of Indian National Congress was Mrs. Annie Besant. Annie Besant जो थी वो फर्स्ट वुमेन प्रेसिडेंट थी इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस की. और ये क्या थी? ब्रिटिश वुमेन थी. ठीक है, फर्स्ट ब्रिटिश वुमेन प्रेसिडेंट थी इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस की. फर्स्ट इंडियन वुमेन जो थी वो थी, मैं नाम भूल गया, सरोजिनी तो नहीं थी. First Indian woman president of Indian National Congress was, इंडियन ओरिजिन की कौन सी थी यार? सरोजिनी नायडू. हाँ, सरोजिनी नायडू भी थी. ओके, मैं आ गया था, मुंह तक आ गया था, मेरे आ गया था सही में, लेकिन मुझे लग नहीं रहा था कि सरोजिनी नायडू होगा. फर्स्ट वुमेन प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस दैट ओरिजिनेटेड फ्रॉम इंडिया was Sarojini Naidu, whereas first woman president who was not of Indian origin was Mrs. Annie Besant. और एनी बेसेंट जो थी वो पहली थी, उसके बाद सरोजिनी नायडू बनी थी, बट सरोजिनी नायडू was फर्स्ट वुमेन ऑफ इंडियन origin. Okay, the first woman chief justice of a high court was Mrs. Leela Seth. Mrs. Leela Seth was the first woman chief justice of a high court. First woman pilot in Indian Air Force was हरिता कौर दयाल. हरिता कौर दयाल जो है फर्स्ट वुमेन पायलट इन इंडियन एयरफोर्स. देन द फर्स्ट वुमेन प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द यूनाइटेड नेशंस जनरल असेंबली UNGA was Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit. Vijayalakshmi Pandit was the first woman president of United Nations General Assembly. First woman chief minister of an Indian state was Mrs. Sucheta Kriplani. Sucheta Kriplani was first woman chief minister of an Indian state. First woman chairman of Union Public Service Commission was, commission इधर आएगा. First woman chairman of Union Public Service Commission was Rose Millian Betthew. Rose Millian Betthew was first woman chairman of Union Public Service Commission UPSC. The first woman director general of police DGP. फर्स्ट वुमेन डीजीपी जो थी इंडिया की वो थी कंचन चौधरी भट्टाचार्य. कंचन चौधरी भट्टाचार्य वाज फर्स्ट वुमेन डीजीपी ऑफ इंडिया. ओके, डायरेक्टर जनरल ऑफ पुलिस. फर्स्ट वुमेन लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल जो थी वो थी पुनीता अरोरा. पुनीता अरोरा वाज फर्स्ट वुमेन लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल ऑफ इंडिया. फर्स्ट वुमेन लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल जो थी वो थी पुनीता अरोरा. एक बार रिवाइज करते हैं. First woman president of United Nations General Assembly was Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit. First woman chief minister of Indian state was Mrs. Suchita Kripalani. First woman chairman of UPSC was Rosemary Mathew. And first woman director general of police DGP was Kanchan Chaudhary Bhattacharya. The first woman lieutenant general was Punita Arora. The first woman air vice marshal was P. Bandyopadhyay. P. Bandyopadhyay was first woman air vice marshal. Okay. So air vice marshal जो first woman की थी वो थी P. Bandyopadhyay. First woman chairperson of Indian Airlines. Indian Airlines की first woman chairperson कौन थी? Sushma Chawla. Sushma Chawla was first woman chairperson of Indian Airlines. The first woman IPS officer was Mrs. Kiran Bedi, obviously. Now she's the governor of Puducherry. हाँ, और the first woman IPS officer जो थी वो थी Mrs. Kiran Bedi. The first woman to receive Nobel Prize was Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa received Nobel Prize for the first time. The first woman to receive Bharat Ratna Award was Miss Indira Gandhi. Mrs. Indira Gandhi got the Bharat Ratna Award for the first time. Okay. The first woman to receive Jnanpith Award was Asha Purna Devi. Asha Purna Devi got the Jnanpith Award for the first time. Again, we are going to revise this. The first woman Air Vice Marshal was P. Bandyopadhyay. P. Bandyopadhyay. First woman chairperson of Indian Airlines was Sushma Chawla. First woman IPS officer was Mrs. Kiran Bedi. First woman to receive Nobel Prize was Mother Teresa. First woman to receive Bharat Ratna Award was Miss Indira Gandhi, and the first woman to receive Jnanpith Award was Asha Purna Devi. Then हम previous year questions एक बार पढ़ लेते हैं. Who was the first Secretary General of United Nations? United Nations का फर्स्ट सेक्रेटरी जनरल कौन था? ट्रिगवेली. जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था वो नॉर्वे से था. नॉर्वे से ट्रिगवेली जो था वो फर्स्ट सेक्रेटरी जनरल ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशंस था. नेम ऑफ द फर्स्ट कंट्री टू लॉन्च सैटेलाइट इनटू स्पेस. सैटेलाइट सबसे पहले किसने लॉन्च करी थी? रशिया. विच कंट्री वोन फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड कप फुटबॉल. फुटबॉल का वर्ल्ड कप सबसे पहले किसने वोन किया था? उरुग्वे ने 1930 में. यहाँ पे ईयर भी दिया हुआ है. उरुग्वे 1930 वोन फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड कप इन फुटबॉल. First woman prime minister of any Muslim country was Benazir Bhutto, and she was from Pakistan. Name of the first country to issue paper currency. Paper currency issue करने वाली पहली country कौन सी थी? इंडिया, चाइना, रशिया, जापान. So obviously चाइना, क्योंकि चाइना में प्रिंटिंग सबसे पहले स्टार्ट हुई थी. ओके, तो आप ऐसा आपको एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बनाना पड़ेगा, एक सेंस से कनेक्ट करना पड़ेगा कि अगर प्रिंटिंग सबसे पहले चाइना में स्टार्ट हुई तो ऑब्वियसली प्रिंटेड जो पेपर करेंसी है वो सबसे पहले चाइना ही प्रोड्यूस करेगा. Name of the first country to make a constitution is USA. USA में written constitution है. Basically ब्रिटेन में इससे पहले है, बट उसे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन नाम नहीं दिया जाता क्योंकि इट इज नॉट, ब्रिटेन हैज नॉट एनी रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, बट यूएसए का जो है रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है. Then who was the first person to sail around the world was फर्डिनेंड मैगेलन. फर्डिनेंड मैगेलन जो है उसने पूरा वर्ल्ड को फर्स्ट पर्सन था जिसने जिसने पूरा वर्ल्ड को सेल किया था वाज फर्डिनेंड मैगेलन. फर्स्ट मैन टू फ्लाई एन एरोप्लेन वाज राइट ब्रदर्स. राइट ब्रदर्स ने सबसे पहले एरोप्लेन फ्लाई किया था. एंड वी आर डन. Today's class is done. So I'm going to move forward with you in next class. See you soon. Take care.